Welcome to Dr. Souphi Aesthetics and Wellbeing, the podcast where we explore the art of living beautifully both inside and out. I'm Dr. Souphi, a medical biochemist, dental surgeon, and aesthetic medicine clinician with a passion for holistic health, mindfulness, and personal growth. This space is dedicated to blending science, aesthetics, and well-being while exploring topics that empower you to live a more balanced and fulfilling life. Today, I'm honored to welcome a truly inspiring guest, Mr. Gavin Andrews. Gavin is the Managing Director for HeartMath in the UK and Ireland. His journey with HeartMath began 17 years ago during a challenging time in his life when he discovered the transformative power of coherence and heart-based living. Since then, Gavin has dedicated himself to sharing his life-changing practice with others, working with multinational corporations, the military, universities, and the NHS. Beyond HeartMath, Gavin founded We Add Heart, an international meditation movement that empowers people to connect with their own hearts and the hearts of others. He's also co-launched Souphi, a digital arts initiative that combines mesmerizing visuals and soundscapes to support breathwork, relaxation, and meditation. In today's episode, we'll explore how reconnecting with your heart can transform your life, bring clarity to your mind, and create more coherence in a chaotic world. Let's explore together. It's an absolute privilege today to speak with you, and I am super excited for our chat today. In my podcast, it's important for us to start with our personal stories because our personal stories are what have made us who we are. And only if you're comfortable understanding your background and how you came into HeartMath and heart coherence. And in fact, what do all that mean would be very exciting for us to hear.
Well, Souphi, I better give you the short version. I'll be here just talking about all of that. But so actually the reason that I'm doing this work is because of something that happened to me some time ago. I used to work in the media, had a very stressful corporate job and climbing a kind of career ladder. While all of that was happening, my first wife got breast cancer and she actually passed away. And we were both really quite young at the time, in our early 30s.
I'm very sorry to hear.
Thank you. It was just one of those experiences that turns your world on its head and makes you question everything. So I was sort of forced into this situation where I thought I knew what was important in life, which was, I thought, climbing the corporate ladder and all that type of thing. And then I was woken up to what was actually important, which was something that I just lost. So I was trying to find my way in the world after something like that had happened to me. I still don't really know why, but I decided to go and do an MBA, a business master's. So I left my corporate existence behind. I couldn't stay in it. It was kind of meaningless to me. And I went and did an MBA. And while I was studying on the MBA, the thing I was most interested in was leadership.
Right.
But not because I necessarily wanted to become a leader, but because what I was studying was more about not leading other people, but leading yourself. So I got very interested in things like emotional intelligence and authentic leadership. And what I realized, especially because I was in this grieving space, I didn't really know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted from life. I'd been woken up as to what was important. So I went on a journey of self-discovery, trying to work out what my values were, my motivations were. I was very lucky with the MBA that I was studying, that it gave me an opportunity to do that. Not all MBAs are like that. And I realized I was quite a stressy person as well. And it was while I was in that space that HeartMath popped up one day. So I went to a lecture about the physiology of leadership. And I thought, well, that's a really weird title. Leadership's all about the brain, surely not the body. And then I saw this demonstration of what happens to us when we get stressed. This was using some of the HeartMath biofeedback technology. Saw what happened to the heart rhythms. Realized the impact of on the body and the brain. And something just clicked for me. And I just thought, wow, I didn't really realize that you could control your state, your body, your brain, the way that your brain works through these simple techniques. And so I was hooked. And I immediately bought a piece of biofeedback technology and started practicing. And I just found it hugely beneficial very quickly. So I found that I could manage my stress. I even found things like I was sleeping better. I wasn't getting as many colds and flus, wasn't run down as much. Even things like sports. I was doing triathlons at the time and I was getting injured as well, less muscular aches and pains and things. So I discovered it for myself. It really worked for me. And then fast forward a few years, I became very passionate about it and wanted to share it with others, which is how I ended up basically being HeartMath in the UK and Ireland. So that's the short version of the story.
Thank you
Longer
very
one
much
takes
for
a lot longer.
sharing. Sure, painful story, but very transformative. So thank you very much for sharing your story. Now, would you please explain for somebody who has zero understanding of everything you just said, and for somebody to come into realization that we can actually control our own physiology, our own emotions, our own actions and reactions in life, this can be transformational. But what does all of that mean?
Well, so really ultimately what HeartMath is about is getting yourself into this state that we call coherence. So it's a state that you can nurture and cultivate in yourself. And really what you're doing is you're building an awareness or connection with your heart. So that's the physical heart. So feeling your heart. Most people can't feel their heart, can't feel their heartbeat, but there's an aspect that's nurturing a physical connection to the heart. There's an aspect which is about breath work. It's a very simple, slow-paced, balanced breathing, which has a profound effect on the autonomic nervous system and also on the brain and the way that your brain works and the way that you think, your cognition. An aspect around recognizing that we have some emotional choice, which a lot of people don't know. A lot of people think the world happens to you or whatever, and you have an emotional response. Something bad happens, you have negative emotions. You're lucky something good happens, you have positive emotions. But that, of course, is true, but it's also about recognizing that we have some choice. So right now, if I looked out my window, I've got beautiful blue sky at the moment, not sure how long it'll last. The sun's shining through some of the clouds around the edges, beautiful trees, and I could just focus on that and awe at nature and beauty and things. So I could close my eyes and think about my family and my children. And so there's part of this that's about recognizing that you've got choice with emotions as well. And the other thing about HeartMath is there's been a technology like this that works with your phone that enables you to measure yourself whilst you're doing all of that. But what's important, aside from the technicalities of the system, is that this state of coherence that you can intentionally put yourself in is an optimal state for the body and the brain and the mind. It's basically you being the best version of yourself. You're bringing yourself into balance. You're getting the brain back into the prefrontal cortex, away from the stress centers, so that you can think much more clearly, logically, rationally, creatively, compassionately. So you're being the best version of yourself more frequently and making that a habit of practice.
Sounds amazing. Now, part of my mission is to show people that a lot of these practices are not woo-woo and they're scientific. Now, somebody listening to this podcast or watching it could say, that sounds amazing. I'm so happy for you. You've changed your life. Show me, how can I change my state? I've had so much going on since this morning. I woke up, my child was sick all night. I couldn't sleep properly. I had to run to work. It's Monday morning. It's actually Monday morning that we're recording. And now, how can I change my state quickly so I can get on with my life? Do you have any practical tools for them without having to go through a course, weeks and weeks of training, or having any devices on them?
Absolutely. So, well, I can teach you our foundation technique. So it's called heart-focused breathing. It's very, very simple. Souphi, you can join on, and anyone who's watching this, please join in as well. So the first thing to do is just get nice and comfortable. You don't need to close your eyes or anything like that. The idea is that with these techniques, you can do them wherever you are, whenever you are, it doesn't matter. So the first thing to do is you just bring your awareness or your attention down into the heart area. Some people can put attention in the body. Great, lucky you if you can. Some people can't. So actually just putting your hand on your chest can be a nice way to anchor your attention or your awareness there. What we're doing, just breathing nice and slowly and deeply, not too deeply, but nice, slowly and deeply. And we're imagining that the breath is flowing into and flowing out of the heart or the sort of chest area. So ideally out through the nose, nice and slow, slower, deeper than normal, but still comfortable. Making sure the belly's nice and relaxed as well. So just imagine that breath flowing in, and flowing out. And just trying to pick up a pace of maybe 5 seconds for the in-breath, 5 seconds for the out-breath. And then as you're breathing as well, trying to get that breath really nice and smooth and sustained. So just imagining the same sustained volume through the in-breath. And then we're not holding or anything before we breathe out. There can be a little transition of half a second or so but then we're just breathing out again through the nose for the 5 seconds. Now, that's the foundation of all the HeartMath techniques. As you can tell, it's very, very simple. Just called heart focused breathing. We like simple names. But actually what you're doing, although it might be a simple practice, what you're doing is very profound. Because when you breathe like that, the breathing becomes very stable and ordered, and this cycle of a 5 seconds in, a 5 seconds out. Very quickly what happens is that your autonomic nervous system synchronizes with your heart rate. So when you breathe in, the heart rate speeds up. And when you breathe out, the heart rate slows down. So if you could visualize it, which I can show you on our technology, what that looks like in terms of a breathing pattern. You can see your heart rhythms. See this waveform here that's going up and down and up and down, up and down. What's happening there basically is when you breathe, the heart rate increases. Technology measures you, so you see the waveform go up, you see the waveform go down. What we're doing is we're going into this basically repeating cycle where the breathing creates these lovely oscillations, this lovely stable rhythm. And that rhythm, think of the heart as the largest rhythm maker in the body. That rhythm goes to the rest of the body and to the brain, and everything synchronizes to that lovely ordered rhythm. So what you're creating in effect is, think of it as inner balance. We call these an inner balance because they create inner balance. But it's the breathing rather that's creating that inner balance. So that's what anyone can do. Most of us, we rush around. We're on the accelerator too much. We're busy, we're stressed. Well, that busyness is taking us out of balance.
Sure.
But actually, at any time we choose, we could stop for 30 seconds, 2 minutes or whatever, and just take a pause, slow the breathing, and that brings us nicely back into balance again.
That was very easy to do. Practical. Can be done
Practical,
anywhere.
simple. And that's the thing with HeartMath, we like easy stuff.
Easy stuff are practical, and they're very good. They're tools that we can give anybody, children, elderly, those who are well, those who are going through something in their life. And these tools are very important for us. Now, I intentionally relax and focus on my breathing. Does our intention play any role here, or just the physiology of it is enough to give us that? I want to say coherence, but I actually want to ask you what you mean by coherence.
Well, so yes, it's simply just doing the breathing is kind of enough. Now, there's other levels that we could go to where intention plays an important part. So certainly
Right.
when it comes to adding an emotion to that, we need to have the intention of having the emotion. I guess we also have to have an intention in that we have to recognize that we're stressed so that we can then tell ourselves to take the pause. But actually, to begin with, it's just the breathing that's making that profound difference to begin with. What do I mean by coherence? So to use the full name, psychophysiological coherence, it's a scientific term that is a way of measuring what's happening in your autonomic nervous system. And so for those people that don't know, the autonomic nervous system is just a bit of you that's doing everything you don't need to think about. Your breathing, your heart rate, your temperature regulation, hormonal release, digestion, all of those things that we don't need to think about, they just happen. Your autonomic nervous system looks after that. Problem is when we get stressed, that gets out of balance, and often we go into the part of this speeding everything up. And when people get stressed, they get some adrenaline, they get some cortisol, and the system speeds everything up. Well, coherence means balance within the autonomic nervous system between the bit of it that speeds everything up when you're stressed and the bit of it that slows everything down when you're resting on the sofa after having a nice meal or you're just about to go off to bed. And so it's just a way of intentionally putting yourself into that state of balance or synchronization. And we can measure it with technology. So it's not a woo-woo state, like you said earlier. It's a real state. It's measurable. There are degrees of coherence that with practice you can get coherent very quickly and you can achieve higher levels of coherence. But all things, it's not magic. You've got to practice it. If you practice it, you get better at it. It's like having a muscle that gets stronger the more you exercise it. And the more we practice, then the more it's there for you when you really need it. When you get really stressed, for example, or you've had a really tough day and you need to rebalance yourself.
Sure. I think what you just said is very important. And a lot of times we think if something happens in life, I'll go to these tools. But if we practice tools like this every day, regardless of what's going on in our lives, when something happens, whether we're sick or something emotional happens to us, then these tools can actually really work for us and be a lot more powerful than us going through that phase without them. Yes.
Absolutely. It's that exercise metaphor. It's strengthening the muscle. You know, if
100%.
you're very unfit and you need to run to catch a bus and the bus is 300 meters down the road, you're probably not going to be able to run catch the bus. Or if you do, you're going to be absolutely exhausted when you get on it. You're going to collapse in a sweaty heat. But actually, if you took an exercise metaphor, if you've been exercising and you've been doing some gentle runs or whatever, then you can catch the bus, can't you? It's the same with these
100%.
techniques. They're there for you when you really need them. Practice them when you don't need them. They're only doing you good anyway.
And when we're in such state of coherence and when we've made friends with our own body, so when we recognize we are actually stressed, forget about why of it for now, and then have tools to deal with that, then we can think more clearly. We can respond to situations more clearly rather than reacting to everything. And equally, we will feel better. And as you said, we would get less sick and injure ourselves a lot less because we're in state of coherence. We're aware of our body. We're aware of our emotions. But equally, I know scientifically, we're upgrading our body. We're upgrading our immune system. And we're upgrading a lot of actual function of the cells on their own. So our brain is physiologically better for it. And our physiology and our body is better for it. And that's amazing. So how can people get to higher levels of coherence?
Well, so on the simple level, just by practicing more.
Sure.
So the more that you practice the breathing, the more you become aware of your breathing, conscious of that, the more that you can control it. If you're using the biofeedback, you can see what the adjustments to your breathing do to your coherence level. But to get to the higher levels of coherence, it's all about regulating the emotions. So recognizing that, yes, emotions are reactions and they always will be. And there are times actually when that can keep us safe. But also we can, if we choose, place our awareness on things that will change our emotions. Everyone's used to doing this anyway. If you think about it, we decide to watch certain TV programs. Why? Because we enjoy them. They make us laugh or they make us scared or whatever it is. We're watching TV to create an emotional shift. Same with music. Why do we listen to music?
Sure.
Because we like the way it makes us feel again. We're upbeat or relaxed or whatever it is. People aren't really used to doing that just for themselves. And so that's what HeartMath is really all about, is recognizing that we have emotional choice. And so, well, let's share it. What we're going to do, what we call a quick coherence technique. And
thank you for sharing.
My pleasure. The technique starts exactly the same way with the heart focused breathing. So we're going to do that first of all, and then I'll explain the second step, which is very simple. So remember, the heart focused breathing, we just take our awareness into the heart or the chest area. We've now got to focus our awareness there. And then what we're doing is we're slowing the breathing a bit more deep than normal. And for most people, a pace of about 10-second cycles, so 5 seconds for the in-breath, 5 seconds for the out-breath. If you're particularly fit and healthy, might be a bit slower, maybe 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. We're just getting that breathing cycling and flowing in, flowing out. And then very quickly what happens is the heart rhythm and the breathing synchronize. So if you had the technology, you'd now be seeing this lovely waveform appearing of your heart rate rising and falling and rising and falling. So that's the foundation. And then what I'd like to invite you, Souphi, and everyone who's listening to do is to just recall someone or something for which you feel genuine care or appreciation, gratitude or love, something like that. And it doesn't matter whether it's a person or a place or a memory, sunshine, doesn't matter. It just needs to be something that's real for you. And then now that you've recalled that feeling of appreciation, gratitude, love, care, for someone or something, just gently breathe that feeling in out with the breath. That's all we're going to do. So we're just adding that emotion we were doing with the breathing. Now, we don't know exactly how or why, as in the mechanism behind it, but what we know is when people really do feel the feeling, then that creates a higher level of coherence. So it somehow excites the cardio respiratory system at an even higher optimal frequency, if you like. So we're sounds a bit weird, but we're all vibrating. When we're breathing like this, or when we're having that feeling, we're vibrating literally an optimal frequency. So another thing's happened as well, which is when you really feel the feelings, you begin to release different types of biochemicals, obviously. So if you really feel when you're doing that, love, you can release some oxytocin, which is really beneficial, buffers the stress response. And certainly the more that you feel pleasant, positive emotions, you're much more likely to release DHEA, which is a vitality hormone. So that literally helps rebuild us on a cellular level. So these techniques are so simple on the surface. It's just like, hey, Gavin, it's just deep breathing, go to your happy place. It is, but we shouldn't underestimate the profound impact that's having on our physiology, our bodies, our brains, our consciousness, our mood. All of these things are impacted positively. So that's called quick coherence, and all you're doing really is choosing to feel something.
Thank you. That was really beautiful. That was amazing. The science behind that is explained in my book, The Science of Gratitude. And you're absolutely right. My life changed when I understood the science behind meditation. And I had traveled to India. I had read a lot of scripture, and I was in that journey since I was a child. But the moment my scientific brain understood the science of meditation, and I started practicing, not only understanding it, practicing it, that changed my life. And my journey started, I was extremely stressed, as many people are. And for me, what you're explaining, the science behind these things, all very important, because that will help a lot of people like myself shift their mindset and start practicing. And now that breathing in a rhythm like that, and then focusing on something that makes you elated and happy and joyful, and immediately you're changing the biochemistry of your body, the hormones that you're producing, the signal that you're sending to your brain, to your heart, to your lungs, to your kidney, to your digestive system, and that can immediately change who you are. That's phenomenal, and it's all scientific.
We have choice. A lot of people don't think they do. They think life's just happening to them and they're having to run around and it's crazy. And yeah, it is. We're all doing too much. Maybe we should do a bit less. But the reality is we can shift our state, and that can be very, very beneficial in the crazy, fast-paced world that we live in. Because actually, Souphi, you know this, but when people are experiencing too much stress, it's basically creating wear and tear, wearing ourselves out, and we're predisposing ourselves, unfortunately, to poor health and even disease if we stress for too long. So that's why I'm very passionate about this and delighted to be able to share with your audience these techniques, because I think what people really need right now are just simple techniques that they can do anytime, any place, very quickly, that they can know are based in science, because far too many people are just too stressed right now. We see it in society, don't we? We see it with the NHS and the overwhelmed number of people who are not well. And to be frank, not happy as well. A lot of people are very unhappy right now.
I think most people are. If you go deep enough in conversation with somebody, most people are deeply unhappy and deeply want to change in their life. But I'd like to go back to what you said, that we all have a choice. Today is a very windy day in the UK, in London, where I am, and we can get up and say, God, how am I going to get through today? Or I can get up and say, my pillow feels really lovely, my blanket feels really lovely, I'm warm, I'm nice. I have a choice, and we don't give that choice to ourselves. A lot of times we think if we suffer in life, that's a better thing to do. If we're unhappy, if we're exhausted all the time. And I see this quite often. There are a lot of my colleagues in my industry, aesthetic medicine and well-being. They think the more they do, I'm not criticizing anybody, I've been there myself, the more you do, the better it is. But the fact is, we have choices in life. We have a choice to either spend time with our family or do something else, or do a lot of different things and not do them very well and suffer ourselves mentally and physically. So we all have a choice from the very moment we open our eyes to change our emotions, to change our mood, and also when it gets to bigger choices in life. And when you talked about emotions, that's interesting, because if you look at people who just fall in love, that their physiology changes. They can do so many things. They can get up early, sleep late, do their work, see that person. They can move mountains. And that is changing somebody's emotions. And when we change our own emotions, and that happens to our body and physiology, we can move mountains.
Yeah.
I'd
And
love
will
to
show up
hear.
differently around other people as well.
100%. We're a nicer
We're,
person to be
we're a
around.
nicer person to be around. Absolutely.
100%. 100%. Now, you have a lot of scientific studies and you have a lot of publications. And for you, please to explain what you mean by biofeedback as well, because I saw what you had in your hand and you showed the application. What is biofeedback for those who don't know? And how can it help us in our journey of well-being?
So biofeedback is just a way of using technology to measure something about yourself. In fact, I'll tell you what, let's back up a little bit. Here's a simple form of biofeedback, just finding your pulse. Put your finger on your pulse, then if you've located it properly, you can feel your pulse. Well, actually, that's biofeedback without the need for technology.
Interesting.
Now, what the technology is doing is basically is a similar thing. It's measuring the pulse, measuring the heartbeats, measuring the gaps between the heartbeats, actually. But then what the technology is doing is that's turning that into something visual that then means you're able to see in real time the impact of what you're doing to yourself. So this device doesn't do anything to you. It's not like some of the technologies that are available now. You can zap your vagus nerve and all of that type of thing. It's totally passive. It's just showing you what you're doing to yourself. So in real time, you can see your heart's rhythm, and you can see that through changing your breathing and through connecting to certain emotions and feelings, you can influence the waveform. Really what we're trying to do is to get that waveform to be as nice and smooth and ordered as possible, which isn't normal as we're going throughout our day. There might be times when it could happen spontaneously, particularly if you were spontaneously feeling care or love, it could happen. But what we're doing is we're intentionally creating that state, and the technology will give you a number for it. So when you practice, you might start and you might get an average coherence of 1.5 or something like that over 5 minutes. And then the more you practice, you might then, we say, to be a 3. A month later, again, you might be a 4 or something like that. So it's just really a way of visualizing what's happening to you inside of your body. This is the heart, basically, and thereby helping you build more of an awareness around what you're doing, your techniques, your practice. And you then know that when you do this without the technology, that you are really changing your state. So it's validating something that you would otherwise be a subjective experience. So lots of people are interested in meditation and mindfulness, they give it a go, but unfortunately loads of people give up because they don't really know what it's doing. They don't feel anything. They're like, what's supposed to happen to me? What do I feel? Do I levitate? What happens to me? They don't know. Whereas if you've got something that you can place your awareness on, your attention on, you can see, oh, wow, I've just noticed that actually, if I really relax my body, I can see the waveform get smoother and I see the number that's being attributed to that get higher. Or if I really remember that amazing beach and that holiday that I went on, or I can almost hear the sea, then again, you can see the waveform get smoother. So it's very individual, it's personal, we're all different, but it's just enabling you to practice and see, get validation that what you're doing is doing something and that you can get better at it over time.
Is believing in this case, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. And it's very helpful. Gavin, you've trained many individuals. You've trained corporates, military, NHS, and a lot more. You've trained people of different nationalities, different religions, different ethnicities. What are some of the biggest barriers when it comes to people practicing or in general connecting with their heart?
It is making it a habit. That's the biggest barrier, and that's not unique to HeartMath. But like most things, that whether it's diets or exercise, building the habit is the big challenge. But for people who dedicate themselves to it, who practice every single day, after a while, they feel the benefits. They know the benefit. If they miss a day or two, they notice that as well. So really, that's where we want to get to, is a place where it becomes such a habit of practice that when you don't practice, it feels uncomfortable. So you practice again. So for myself, my habit of practice is sort of ad hoc throughout the day. I'll do some the heart-focused breathing or the quick coherences just to reset myself. Or if I feel that I'm getting a bit anxious or tense about anything, I'll do a quick coherence. Before our conversation, I've been dashing around this morning. I want to be composed in the right place to have a great conversation with you. So I do a 30-second quick coherence just to get myself in the right place. So I
Yes.
do like ad hoc practice like that, but I also do a 20-minute, or it's 21 minutes actually, every day of what we call a heart locking, which is it's a bit of a deeper practice. You close your eyes, you're really radiating out love and care and compassion out into the world and back in and for yourself. But for me, what that means is that it sustains my habit of practice. Every now and again, so like once a fortnight or something like that, I'll have such a busy day that I haven't had time to do my 20 minutes practice. Sure, I can do my heart focused breathings and quick coherences and some dashing around, but I haven't had the time to do the 21 minutes practice. I really feel that. And more often than not, the next day, I'll actually double down on and make sure I do too. Now, that's maybe me just being a bit weird, and you could say that's maybe a healthy addiction in a way. But that is a great place to be because it means that you've just got this sustained baseline, that you're keeping that baseline of coherence there, which means that even if all the stresses start coming in for whatever, I still have stress in my life and what's going on. It just makes it easier to navigate all of that a bit more effectively without getting completely depleted and drained, or the negative emotions really taking over, then you're behaving in ways that you regret. So it really is, the answer is, I'm afraid, practice. You get in, or you get out rather what you put in.
But that's really good because it's simple, it's in our hands, it's in our power, and we can do it anywhere for free.
Anyway, my big one is I'm in a traffic jam. I do
Yes.
quick coherence techniques.
Rather than getting angry and shouting.
Rather than get angry because I can't do anything about it anyway.
Yes. And that brings me back to what you said about exercise. So after so many years of doing this, you still need to do it daily to keep your coherence. And it's exactly like exercise. The moment you stop doing it, gradually your muscles will atrophy and you lose all your skills and your stamina. So thank you for sharing that with us. So people who want to start this practice, I know you have a lot of different videos on YouTube. There's also music. There's a lot of free resources on your website. So they can start with those things, but you actually do have classes that they can take online or in person, in fact, right?
You even network of coaches across the whole of across the whole of the world, actually. I look after UK and Ireland, but there's HeartMath coaches all across the world for people who are really interested in deep dive and learning these techniques. But actually, the point of using a coach is to then apply those techniques to areas of your life that you'd like to change.
100%.
So HeartMath coaches, and a great place to start actually for free is a resource that we have called the HeartMath Experience. So we'll provide the link for that.
Yes,
and you
100%.
can download that. It's an hour and a half self-paced online learning. Got some great books. There's a great book called Transforming Stress, which is very practical. And another book called Heart Intelligence, which is a bit more the spiritual side of HeartMath, I guess. So HeartMath is entirely non-religious, but it's definitely a spiritual organization. And our perspective is that the more people you connect with their hearts, connect with the hearts of others, then that's how you create a better world. That sounds very idealistic, but actually, if we're all coherent, we will behave much more appropriately to each other and with ourselves. And that really is, in a practical sense, how you begin to make positive change in the world. So you can dip your toe in with your free resources book. There's loads of stuff online. These gadgets, that's another step up. These are £224. We could provide a discount voucher, actually, Souphi. So
Thank you.
We'll do that as well. But if you really think that I'm interested in that and you'd like to jump in with the biofeedback, then that's available on our store as well.
Thank you, Gavin.
Lots of different ways of getting into it, whether that's free or paying a bit more.
Thank you. And there are actually scientific studies to show that all behaviors change when we have heart-based practices. And I will put some of the studies down in the description box. I'm actually a HeartMath certified practitioner. And how can practitioners help out there, and who should go to them? And who should actually come and train with you to become a HeartMath certified practitioner? And you have different ones as well.
So we train people to become certified coaches. That's what we do here. We also have different online programs where if you're clinical, there's a clinical certification or health certifications. So it's about working out who you are, what work you do, and how you might want to use it. Generally, there's a program for everybody. In terms of who might want to work with a practitioner, it depends what you're looking for. So if health is the big deal, then someone will want to work with somebody like you, Souphi. Or if somebody is maybe dealing with trauma, then we train people who use HeartMath in a trauma setting. We train people who use HeartMath for relationships, in sports. So really, it depends on what your area of need is. Then there's HeartMath folk who can fulfill that. In terms of who might want to become a practitioner, well, anyone who wants to help others. If you want to help other people manage their stress, to connect with themselves more deeply, then you can train with us. We don't actually, for the HeartMath Coach program, we don't insist that people have pre-existing qualifications. They just need to be passionate about helping others. We provide all of the training that's required. So that's the coach qualification. So look, if anyone's interested, reach out to me, info@heartmath.co.uk, and we'll get back to you and have a chat with you about what your options are.
That's wonderful. And what can people expect during a session?
If they were receiving coaching.
Yes, that's right.
Yep.
Coaching, or if they go to a practitioner, and I'm looking for my HeartMath device so I can show as well.
Well, generally what they can expect is a bit of an explanation of what's going on physiologically. So it's partly about helping people understand what happens to us when we're experiencing stress, and also what happens to us when we're experiencing pleasant, positive emotions. So that's helpful, just understanding that. And then also understanding heart rate variability and coherence, because that's what we're measuring.
Yes.
And most coaches bring that to life by doing a demonstration with the person that they're working with. And then really it's about a series of different exercises and techniques. That will be dependent upon your need. So the coach decides really what exercises, self-awareness exercises might need to be done and what techniques might be most useful. So yeah, it's about information and also then practical stuff, exercises and techniques to help you make the changes in your life that you want to change.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We have provided some fundamental information about what heart coherence is, about HeartMath, and I am so grateful that you've joined us today, Gavin. Is there anything you'd like to say and add? What would you say to your younger self if you go back, now that you have all this experience and information?
Well, what I'd say is, Gavin, you do have choice around how you feel. And I'd also say, and in those moments where you don't think you can control anything else, the one thing you can control is your breath. Once you control your breath, that can open the doors of possibility or potential.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. I very much appreciate your time today and all the information provided. There'll be all the links that we discussed in the description box below, and I look forward to speaking to you next time.
Thank you very much.